Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we're finding out how many Knibis we need to defeat Stockfish. The Knibis moves like a knight but captures like a bishop. Let's get started with game number 1. Alright, game number 1 we start with 1 Knibis and we'll add 1 each game until we actually defeat Fairy Stockfish, which is just Stockfish that can play against these fairy pieces. Now if I click on the Knibis you can see that it can move like a knight, and at the moment we don't have any legal captures so we don't see that functionality quite yet, but it does capture like a bishop, which means eventually I will need to attack the king on a diagonal now. You might be wondering, why are there pieces missing? This is not a complete setup from the black pieces. And the reason is, originally there were other fairy pieces on these squares, but since these videos are mostly an exploration of A, the capabilities of Fairy Stockfish, and B, the individual pieces that we're presenting in the videos, I didn't really want to clutter the video with 3 fairy pieces. I'd rather just keep it at 1. So as a means to that end, I've simplified the black position quite a bit, which should make our goal a little bit easier now. Stockfish is threatening to develop the queen with check. We will use, well, actually, traditionally, I would use the Knibis to cover that square, but since it moves like a bishop, it actually can't defend that square at all. You know what? Instead of covering with the knight, let's just move the king forward. We only have 2 pieces on the board anyways, and the odds of us winning this first game are quite minimal. As I've done in other videos, at the end, I will pull up the evaluation bar and we'll find out how many of these pieces we actually needed to defeat Stockfish, at which point we had an advantage, regardless of how many I needed to actually pull off the victory. We get pawn to c4, it's looking for that promotion. Now, technically the Knibis covers that square, but if the Knibis is covering that square, the king by itself is definitely not going to defeat Stockfish, so we're basically just hanging on for dear life for a few moves. We'll retreat the Knibis to cover the pawn, and we are immediately mated. Let's go to move on to 2 Knibis. All right, 2 Knibis on the board now. Coordinating these pieces is going to be pretty interesting considering they move like knights but capture like bishops. So I guess we should just start developing towards the center as we traditionally would in a game of chess. We are immediately put in check. We'll move the king towards the middle to support the 2 pieces that we have to work with. The rook develops. It's probably a little bit naive to bring the king into the middle of the board, but frankly every time we get pushed to the edge we get checkmated relatively quickly. The pawn develops. We still haven't been able to show off the ability of the Knibis to attack as a bishop, so as a proof of concept, regardless of whether or not this is a particularly good move, I will move it as a knight to b5 and deliver check as a bishop. We get pawn here, so I can move it again and deliver another. Nope, that's just my chess heuristics kicking in. That's so crazy. The hardest part of playing some of these variants is quite literally just undoing whatever your chess knowledge was prior to playing the variant and immersing yourself in the ability of these pieces. So it's so funny. Traditionally, these knights would more than cover the c4 square, but considering they only capture as bishops, the king is just fending for himself at the moment. We're in check again. Again, Knibis completely useless here. Only captures as a bishop. We'll move back once more. Is there any chance we stop the ladders mate? I don't think there is a way, and we do get ladders mated again. Let's go to move on to 3 Knibis. All right, 3 Knibis now on the board. I'm not much more hopeful than I was even with 1, but I am quite happy to have more pieces to my name. Queen immediately comes out with a check. I feel like moving the king towards the center has been our best bet, but the problem is if I move the king to d2, there's check. But wait a minute, this Knibis capturing as a bishop protects the one on f1, so actually that might be fine. Okay, rook comes out to play, and I have a very funny feeling we are in for another ladders mate in just a moment. I can play this Knibis here. Oh, and wow, that actually works. Okay, because they all defend each other as bishops, so none of them can be hanging, and it covers a2. Look at me go. I'm actually starting to understand how these pieces work. Okay, we'll move the king again towards the center. Probably not the smartest play ever, but also probably better than just waiting around to get ladders mated again. We'll move up to b4. We are put in check once more. Oh, wait a minute. I play here and then it's mate on a5. Okay, well, moving the king towards the center is probably not the best strategy. Let's move on to 4 Knibis. All right, 4 Knibis on the board. It would be great if I had a way to just sacrifice to open up a diagonal and then actually start an attack. But the problem is since they only move as knights, they're very, very slow to actually get into the game. So we can start developing, but holy smokes, it's a very, very slow endeavor. All right, we get pawn to c4. They're probably best placed all diagonal to each other so that they're actually defending each other. We get checked immediately. We'll play the Knibis back. Again, they're all defending each other, but this pawn just comes straight into the position. We'll move out of the way. There's this horrendous check. I can't even sacrifice one of the Knibis for the pawn. I have no choice but to block. We'll go ahead and, oh, we can't even take back. That was just totally free. Holy smokes, we move out of the way. This is just survival at this point. Let's attack these 2 pieces. and we are immediately mated. Okay, absolutely speeding through these games. Let's go to move on to 5 Knibis. All right, 5 Knibis now on the board. I have been getting destroyed so quickly that I didn't even have the opportunity to tell you that I found out, interestingly enough, that even though in traditional chess you cannot mate with 2 knights, in Hopple Popple, which is the variant that we're actually playing right now, you can checkmate with 2 Knibis, as it's similar to checkmating with 2 bishops, but with a lot more steps and more headache. But the concept is quite similar. We get rook to g8, targeting one of our Knibis. Let's move it out of the way. Pawn to d5, threatening here. There's no way for me to cover this. Actually, there is. I can play this Knibis this way, and then we have 2 Knibis acting as bishop to cover d4. Let's do that. Pawn to c5 reinforces that d4 idea, which is probably the best way to get at my king, just storming pawns right down the middle of the board. Is this an actual concrete check? Probably not. The king just kind of moves out of the way. It's more of a spite check, to be totally honest, but it's probably one of my best shots here. At least say that I got a check on the board. Again, these pieces are just so slow to develop that it's really hard to create an attack. So right now, this Knibis is under attack, and the engine is threatening to play queen to a5 check, picks up the Knibis here. So only way that I see to defend that is to move this Knibis out of danger. Should we get checked, we can play this Knibis back. This one defends as a bishop, and we're kind of just barely holding onto the position, but the opponent finds this f6 move, which destabilizes our Knibis in the center of the board. Let's move down to d7 and give check. Oh, that's not check, holy smokes, what am I talking about? But we do defend the Knibis on b5 once more, and there's no way to boot this Knibis from d7, so they kind of just stand there and protect each other, which is nice. If I move backwards, I do hit the queen, but c3 hits me right back. I guess I could sacrifice, but I want to hold on to my Knibis for as long as possible. We get checked again. You'd think I'd learn my lesson about moving my king into the center, but to be honest, I think a much more pitiful fate awaits me if I just move back, which is pawn to c3 and then just push, push, push. If I try to block with one of the Knibis, there's c3 again. This Knibis is doing nothing but waiting to get captured, so I'm going to move my king to the center once more. We're finally threatening to capture something on the board, which is the rook on c8. We get checked. I'm going to regret this decision, I feel, but I'm going to take on d4. Oh, and we drop the Knibis on f2. Okay, we'll block with another Knibis, which actually does hit the queen. We get checked once more. How far forward can I get into the board? Okay, if I play here, where's the mate? Surely it's unafraid. Oh, wait a minute. Is queen to e5 just mate there? Yeah, because again, these don't function as knights. They function as bishops. So nobody's defending e5 if I move the king up. But an even sweeter sorrow is that I have no choice but to move either the king over, at which point d3 is not an escape square, so queen to e5 is mate anyways, or king to d5. So I guess either way, it's mate on e5. Let's go to move on to 6 Knibis. All right, 6 Knibis now on the board. I feel like we're getting to the point now where I have enough of these pieces to serve as defense, but also build up an offensive attack. Now, since they all defend each other diagonally, I think one of my best bets is to start actually placing them diagonal to one another so they can actually serve their purpose. So, for example, Knibis here to d3, I have a triple battery looking at c4. Of course, there's no concrete way for me to stop these pawns from advancing in tandem side by side, but I can at least slow them down and simultaneously develop my pieces. So c4 is inbound. I can probably just take and start sacrificing a little bit. It's not ideal, but at least I'm not losing to these pawns right away. We get pawn to e5. We can just drop this sort of, oh no, we can't. It moves as a knight. So let's develop one of the Knibis so we can actually look for that b5 move. We get pawn to f6, check. The king develops, which is kind of a funny concept in and of itself, but what about Knibis to g4? Check? No, that's not check. It would just hit the rook. Okay, let's just keep developing these pieces. I assume if I move them far enough into the position, at some point we'll have an attack of some kind. Pawn comes up. If I move the Knibis out of the way, check, and I drop this one. So I guess we'll just go for the sacrifice. Check again. Wow, the king moves out of the way. To be honest, I was kind of expecting the rook sacrifice, which makes me think maybe we have the advantage here. There's no more, well, it's not that there's no more pawns, but at least it's not a cloud of pawns coming my way. It's only 2 of them connected, and we've managed to get rid of 2 already by sacrificing one of our Knibis. So I'm thinking we're in a pretty good spot here. Let's develop. Rook shuffles over, looking for this check. If we move the king up, I would hate to lose to the king having to develop to the middle of the board again, but I'm not totally sure how we stop that idea. I'm going to assume our best shot is Knibis to e4. I don't see any checks that are crushing. This is kind of annoying, but I think I can just move up and sort of hide into f3. But again, just because I don't see any checks doesn't mean there aren't any. We are covering h1 with this move, which is the reason I want to play it in the first place. Okay, we do get queen to a5, which was expected. King to e2. Queen to a1, which is not a check, actually. And the reason I'm so fixated on these checking ideas is because the initiative is everything in this position. I mean, the opponent's king is a little bit exposed. My king is very exposed. So just having the initiative, meaning you're calling the shots, you're the one giving the checks, is inherently a huge advantage. So queen to a1, I don't think sets up anything particularly scary. It doesn't mean that it doesn't. It just means I don't see it. Because it doesn't have anybody to support it on this back rank attack, and this rook can't come in quite yet because the Knibis just sacks. So I think we can focus on continuing our own attack. Now we do need a diagonal check, and naturally Stockfish has done an incredible job of making that as big a headache as possible. So maybe we need to focus on trying to win material, and I think the best way of doing that is just centralizing your pieces, getting very, very active in the position. Okay, rook to h2 pins this Knibis. Now all of these are on light squares, so there's actually nobody defending the one on f2. We'll try to change that. Oh, if I change that and move back though, then rook to h1. Oh, but this Knibis now covers the diagonal, so that's actually okay. Okay, we get checked. Wait a minute, am I walking into mate here? If I move up, what happens? Check. I move down, check, I move up, and what? Repeat moves? Oh, they bring another piece into the attack. I'm very, very tempted to just play this. And the idea is a sack on e5, which would be just glorious because the pawn takes back. Whoops, that's not. The arrows, the bad arrows are just staples of the video at this point, but the pawn would take back. I could sacrifice another Knibis, again, moving as a bishop. And then basically what I'm threatening, or rather the tactic that I've employed is checking the king, again, moves like a bishop, and hitting the queen, again, moves like a bishop. The other option here is simply just to take the rook. My only concern is that then I sort of have to bring this Knibis back, and I have two Knibis islands that sort of just kind of sit there and defend each other. And I'm not totally sure that that's winning, but let's see. If I play here, is there anything concretely bad for me? I don't think so. I mean, I could take. I'm so tempted to take. It just feels like the natural move, but I feel like I have better. So I'm going to play Knibis to d6. Rook comes down. Okay, why can't I just take? Is this not completely winning? I take? Oh my goodness, of course it's not winning. This Knibis is pinned, so nobody's defending f2. Yep, I should have just picked up the rook when I had the chance. All right, king has not learned his lesson, and he moves into the middle of the board. We get checked again. Now that we have the chance, I'm not going to skip out. We're going to sack, but it's probably too little too late. King goes back. There's nobody defending this Knibis on e5. Stockfish doesn't even take it right away, moves the queen into check. So all of these moves are forcing. I move out of the way, surely another check, and this position is just criminal. I can't even move up. Then I fall for another pinned Knibis. Okay, we move back, and almost certainly there's a terrible ladders mate that will haunt my nightmares. I move out of the way, check, check again. We're kind of surviving, sort of, maybe a little bit. There's no moves here but covering with the Knibis. And with that, we lose with 6 Knibis. Let's move on to 7 Knibis. All right, 7 Knibis now on the board. We've learned a couple of lessons. A, don't even think about bringing your king to the center. It's usually the end of the game. B, try to position them all diagonal to one another so that at least you have these little islands that protect each other. And C, don't be so afraid, because I feel like last time after we traded off for those 2 pawns, we were honestly doing quite amazing. Let's set these up on the diagonal to threaten the pawn. Rook shuffles over. Why can I not just take? Let me rephrase. We're gonna take and find out why we can't. Okay, queen comes out with check. What's the idea? To sacrifice a rook for 2 Knibis? I guess that makes pretty good sense. We'll cover with another one. We do get the sack, fair enough. And I think this is still much better for us. Now this one's hanging, or rather it's defended right now, but should I want to develop, it would be hanging. So let's move it onto this diagonal. They all sort of defend each other. The queen comes out as well. Now what happens if knight is here? Again, I have to be careful of these pins, but I don't think I'm losing anything quite yet. So I'm gonna play here, threaten the queen. We do get checked. If I just move out of the way, surely I'm not losing material. Check again, I can move the Knibis back, defends the one on f1. Oh, and the queen retreats all the way back, which is, I think, quite a good sign for us. Now the question is, how do I untangle this position and actually go on the offense here? Assuming that's even possible. Let's move this Knibis over. So we have 2 islands now. We get checked again. If I move out of the way, are we going to get another sacrifice? We do. I think I'm happy with that though. If I can trade off by some magic one of these Knibis for the queen, then I'm definitely winning this. Let's play this, hit the queen. Oh, what am I talking about? Okay, we didn't hit the queen, but they are all defended, so I guess it's probably still fine. If we play here and actually hit the queen, we get, oh, we don't get checked, we're covered. Okay, we'll play this and actually target the queen. Queen shuffles over, and I don't actually think there's a way to attack this queen that's protected. So, oh my goodness, I want to say that I've learned my lesson about moving the king into the middle of the board. Let's play this for now. We'll stop d4 from happening at least. Okay, e5, we've only stopped it temporarily, so check. King comes up. There's another check here, which moves the knight quite far back into the position, but I don't think we're faced with too many other really good options here. So we'll play check. Wow, Stockfish definitely has no fear about moving the king into the position. If we move back, there's just check and we drop this Knibis, because again, this only moves as a bishop. So actually it might be trapped. Oh, that's that's not ideal. Wow, I feel like we were doing so much better in the last game, actually. Okay, we'll move the king out of the way, so at least it's not pinned. We do get checked. We'll move again. Opponent threatens the Knibis. Are we totally trapped? Wow, is there no way to defend this? It's really interesting too, because the fact that it can only capture like a bishop means stuff like this is not available to us. Even like a little Desperado is just simply not possible. Okay, let's develop more Knibis and just hang this one, and hopefully there's a tactic at some point. Even if it's not one that I see, hopefully it's something that can scare Stockfish into playing a conceding move, but this does not seem like a conceding move whatsoever. Let's play Knibis back, I guess. We're definitely still dropping this. Oh, the king comes forward. I'm very curious why it's not taking here. It probably just sees a faster way to win, but I'm kind of hopeful that there might be something here for us. Still no way to defend this piece, so we'll just shuffle the king over. We do finally drop that piece. If I move up, there's just here, pins the Knibis, and that's definitely losing. So we're just kind of holding on for dear life here. Check. Does that guarantee drop a Knibis? Yes. If I move back, you just take, because these do not defend each other. I probably should have made a waiting move with the king. And we are getting absolutely devoured in this position. Check, we move back, and disgusting mate there on h3. All right, 7 Knibis was not enough. Let's move on to 8. All right, 8 Knibis now on the board. We finally have some batteries from the get-go that obviously just point to the side of the board, so they're not terribly effective, but they are nice to have. Now, I have an interesting idea here, because if I stack batteries on these diagonals, I actually have a chance of targeting something. Whereas before, I was really mostly developing towards the center, which creates batteries that target nothing. So I think I need these batteries to be on the outside of the board looking inward. Now the question is, how do I actually do that? Because that sounds really nice, but let's make it concrete. I think this is what we're looking for first. Nice little battery looking at f7. We're blocked with d5. We can sacrifice right away, and let's just go for it. Why not? At some point, I'm going to have to start making exchanges, so we might as well start sooner rather than later. We get pawn to e6. I can just move back, or I can double down on the idea. If takes, I take back. The problem is I lose a Knibis for a pawn, which just saying that sounds silly is probably the understatement of the year. So, okay, we'll concede and move. The problem is if I move back, then check. Here, I lose this Knibis, so I'd have to block this way. It's probably still more concrete. I don't like making backwards moves against an engine, but as you can see, it's attacking a Knibis that's already defended. So maybe it's not as bad as I'm making it out to be. Ooh, okay. That's horrendous, because if I block, check. Oh my goodness, is that? Oh, it's not mate because I can play back, but I can't actually take back this way, rather this way because it's pinned. If I move the king out of the way, is that losing somehow? Queen comes down with another check. If I move back, check again. I still can't ever block because they just take. Oh, okay, that's a good sign. If Stockfish wants a draw, I guess I'll give it to them, or rather to it. If I move back, it's just mate. Is there a way out of this? I don't think there is. I think I just have to move back and forth. Okay, and with that, funny enough, we do get a draw, but the point of this video is to win, not get a draw against Fairy Stockfish. So let's move on to 9 Knibis. All right, 9 Knibis now on the board. I'm pretty confident we're well past the point where we were winning from the very beginning, but we haven't managed to pull away with the victory quite yet. Stockfish does have these very interesting, fast developing ideas where suddenly our position starts to crumble, unfortunately, quickly. But we're going to go with the same idea again. I liked the way it went last time. If I play here right away and ignore this, what happens? I take with check, you move out of the way. Okay, we're not doing that. We'll play a little bit defensive. Oh, we get a rook sack right away. That's an amazing sign. Oh, that's a beautiful sign. Do another one. Yes, beautiful. Okay, surely we are completely winning in this position to merit such wild defensive play. Let's start developing towards the center. We do get d5. We could sack, but it's probably totally unnecessary here. So we'll keep developing towards the center, and we just have to watch out rather for any wacky queen developing moves, like this one, which threatens check. So we're not going to fall for that. We'll play here, so we always have an escape. Pawn to e5. Very interesting that there's no sacrifices on the board. We'll move backwards so that there is, and I think we just go for it. Start sacrificing pieces, getting rid of all of black's material. A king move is extremely indicative of Stockfish thinking it's worse and just trying to hold out on the position. So now we just stack the pressure. More pressure, make sure they're always connected in some form or another. Here we have 2 separate islands. We get pawn to f5. We'll play this Knibis to d3 with the idea of rerouting to b2, targeting e5. Pawn to f4, does that actually work? If I take, my opponent takes, I can sacrifice, and we'd be left with 4 Knibis against a queen, which I think has to be winning, surely. Okay, the queen does take back. These two defend each other. Nobody's defending these two. If I move the king over, check, I move here. And I think there's no way we lose more material. Queen shuffles over, I move up to d2. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. There's no way this is a draw, though. What if I just move back? Then nobody's defending this one, so no, but it's not losing, though, because this Knibis defends f2. So this should be fine. Okay, queen goes back. Cool, we're back on track. Develop. Queen comes up to d5. Develop again. We now have 2 islands. We'll move the king over. Move the king over again. Oh, we're getting checked. Okay, we're definitely not going for a draw here. What if we move back? Check. Back again. Check. Super annoying, but I think we're okay. But there has to be a way for the king to make progress. That's the issue here. Check again. Back again. Queen goes back to f7. I don't like that they're all sort of hanging around. We have to find a way to keep them interconnected. Problem is, if I move back, it will surely try to repeat moves. So, what happens if we break the script and move king to e3? 2 hanging Knibis, extremely risky, but might be worth it because the only check that I see is here. Knibis comes over, and I think we're fine. Oh, queen goes back. We are absolutely fine in that position. We get checked again. We can move back to defend. Another really annoying check, but we're finally making progress in the position. Queen comes back and pins this Knibis on f2. Surely there are winning ideas here. I just have to be able to find them. Check. We'll connect all the Knibis on dark squares. Queen comes back. King back again. Check on the light squares is quite annoying, but I'm pretty sure we can finesse our way out of it. Okay, we'll move up. Check again. I'm going to try for an attack. I don't know if this is concrete whatsoever, but I'm going to at least make a run at it. We'll go back to g4. And another non-checking move, which is very promising. Now, it does threaten this check, and I'm not sure how I defend against that. Let's go up to h5. Queen goes down with check. We move over. Oh, check again. I see. It's going for repetition, of course. I'll move up to h7. Check again. Oh, we're so close to drawing here, but this is not a drawing position. Okay, we'll go back. We'll go back. We'll reassess. We get checked. I'm trying to see if there's any universe in which I can move one of my Knibis so that they hang. The queen takes, and then somehow I get like a skewer or a fork or something against the queen and the king. But I think I've allowed my king to advance too far forward by itself. We'll move back. Check. Oh, is this forced repetition? Oh, wait a minute. Okay, back to g6. Oh, and I have no choice but to repeat. Oh, goodness, we've stranded the king too far forward by himself. If I move back to h7, we're just repeating moves. So g7, I guess. Queen goes back, f6. We'll try to force our way out. Okay, we forced our way out. That's good. First good bit of news. Back to e4. Check, we'll block here. Check again. I think we have to start blocking or else we're inevitably going to fall into a drawn position. So we'll block again. Queen shuffles over. King over as well. Check. Knibis goes up. Check again. We have to find a way to make progress here or else this is going to just be a very boring draw. We're also down to 4 minutes and 30 seconds. And unfortunately, there's no way for me to add time to this. So let's move over. Check. We move back. Check again. Okay, wait, is that running out of checks if I play here? No, there's check here. But then I move up. Are we really just going to dance around the center for infinity and beyond? This is such... Okay, what about here though? This looks promising. Okay, there we go. We've not been checked. The idea was if queen d7 check, I play the Knibis to e6, hits the queen, defends the knight. So this is threatening my whole entire position basically all at once, but it's not a checking move, so I have the initiative again. Let's play check. Surely checking moves have to be good. If king there, I would have won the king and the queen. So we're just looking for probably a way to get these two pieces on the same colored square. Let's play check like this. King moves over. Oh, they're on the same color, but this doesn't work because the queen just goes back and takes. Understood. Let's play the Knibis here. I really should keep giving checks here as much as possible, but it just doesn't seem like there's a way to do that. We get checked again. I'm running very, very low on time. Both defensive moves don't work, so I have to move the king out of the way. Okay, again, not a checking move. We'll move, if we move this Knibis back, we hang this one. So we'll move this, if we move this Knibis, then we hang this one. So check, I'd move out of the way, and then we drop this. And there's no way to win it back that I can see. Okay, we're now down under 2 minutes. Yeah, I see no better way to proceed than to just, make waiting moves. Okay, king back to e8 is promising. Check. King moves over. Wait a minute. Is this not mating somehow? I can't move this because it's pinned, but I can move the king out of the way. This way? No, wait. King. Oh no, king up doesn't work because it just hangs. Oh, I'm down to a minute as well. Let's just do this. We get a sacrifice. Wait, is that? There's no way I've been baited into stalemate. I can't take that, can I? Oh, but I have no other legal moves. And that is another draw by stalemate. I didn't even think about the possibility of Stockfish sacrificing for stalemate. All right, that was 9 Knibis. Let's go to move on to 10. All right, 10 Knibis now on the board. Plenty to cover up the king, plenty to start an attack. This should be a relatively straightforward victory. We just have to make decent trades. All right, pawn to e6. We'll bring more pieces towards the center. That can't possibly be a bad idea. Rook comes out to the side. We just keep developing. They all defend each other quite comfortably. We'll go ahead and take back. We get another sacrifice. Don't mind if I do. Queen to e6. Now we just have to make sure that everybody's defended at all times and we'll be totally fine. Even so far as to play knight back and we'll be totally fine. Takes seems reasonable. It's not losing too much material. Go ahead and take back. Queen to the center. We have to be sure we don't weaken any of one square type too quickly. So we'll keep some on dark squares, some on light squares. So whenever we're checked, we can sort of just move out of the way and be fine. Okay, king moves over as well, onto a dark square no less. Oh wait, what about here? If the opponent takes, I win the queen and the king. Unfortunately, it's Stockfish, so it probably won't take, but it's an interesting idea. Oh wait, it has to take because it forks the king and the queen. I didn't even think about that. Now check. Immediately wins the queen, and this is definitely winning as long as we don't stalemate. Let's develop the king. Honestly, I'm going to bring the king into the attack first because it's the piece that I'm most comfortable playing with. We'll defend the Knibis on this square, and we just have to make sure not to stalemate. We can buy all the tempo in the world that we need. We'll play here so the king can't move back. Start restricting the king's ability to move. If I move up, king has to move to b8, which surely is a good thing for me. Check. King shuffles over. We'll allow the pawn to move so that there's no way this is stalemate, and we have some way to checkmate. Okay, pawn moves up. Excellent sign. We'll use one of these pieces to cover the escape square. Again, Stockfish has no choice but to continue to move the pawn. This Knibis covers this square. A8 is still possible. We'll play check. King moves back, and now we just need a Knibis on b7, and this is mate. Nice, and with that, we finally defeat Fairy Stockfish. It took us all of 10 Knibis to actually win. Let's go ahead and pull up the eval bar and see how many Stockfish could have done it with. Okay, we're now looking at the analysis board. With 5 Knibis, we're actually still losing, but if we add another one into the equation, with 6, apparently it's already +3 for white from the get-go, or, pretty close to +3. I'm going to play this out just a little bit because I'm genuinely curious what on earth the idea here is. Right, it loves to play these rook moves. You just move the Knibis out of the way. You do see the sort of triangular setup already, which does make sense. They all sort of defend each other. Pawn to c6, and you kind of just develop without any fear. It's really interesting. This pawn moves out of the way, but this Knibis covers this diagonal, so the king is not weak yet. We get pawn to d5. That was a classic idea throughout the games that we played. Knibis to f2, maybe preparing a sacrifice. Rook to a8, again, another classic Stockfish move. And yeah, you can sort of see it's trying to decide which way it wants to develop, but regardless, it's going to develop outwards. Okay, which now in hindsight actually makes a lot of sense. That does 2 things. One, it blocks the rooks from entering the position. If the rook doesn't have an open file, then what even is it? It's more of a pawn at that point because it can't get into the game unless it has an open file. And 2, by placing your Knibis on the outside of the board, which we did finally figure out by like 6 or 7 of them, you actually point inwards as far as your attack goes. So that does make a lot of sense, to the point that Stockfish now wants to sacrifice the rook. And if you can get Stockfish to start sacrificing rooks, you're probably in a pretty good spot. And Stockfish still thinks that it holds the advantage. So pretty interesting. These pieces, I guess, work better on the outside of the board, facing inward. And considering they're very slow pieces, the sooner you can get them out facing in the right direction, the better off you are going to be. If you guys did enjoy this video, please consider liking and subscribing. Let me know down below what other fairy pieces I should play against Fairy Stockfish with, and I will see you guys in the next one.